from a, I guess, new hunter's perspective, somebody getting into turkey hunting, what advice would you give to the whether they're young or whether it's an old guy that like myself? But, I'm not old, but
I'd say
been
just
hunting a while, but never, put my hand to
patience.
it.
I think patience, and overcalling. Like I said, I think a lot of guys call too much. I'm convinced in my head that if I call to that turkey, and not, you always kind of listen because turkeys will fool you, especially like up in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
They'll gobble facing that way one time, and then they'll turn around and they'll face you. Well, that throws that sound off to the point where you're like, man, I'm second guessing myself. How far is that turkey?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't ever get real excited. Like I said, I don't call to them a lot on the tree. So like I'll kind of wait till I know they're on the ground. And yeah, I have a wing feather, and I'll beat it off my arm to make it sound like it.
A little ruffling, yeah.
It makes the turkey think that a hen's flying out of the tree.
Sure.
And believe it or not, well, actually, when I had my daughter out her first time, that's all I used. I had my hat. I didn't have the wing feather with me.
Yeah.
I took my hat off my head and I went beat it off my arm.
Mm-hmm.
And we could see the turkeys up in the tree. There was 3 of them. Them turkeys sailed, flew right down in the field. And of course, she was only 7 years old, so I had decoys out for her. And they walked up there and like 25 yards away. Yeah, she smacked it.
That's awesome. It's one of those things.
About what? Oh, yeah. Well, of course, it was like 10 minutes after legal hunting time. I mean,
Sure,
it happened that quick. So I told him, I said, come on, because there was another spot I knew right down the road. Not that I'm greedy, but I thought, well, we got plenty of time.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, Dad. He goes, I was happy enough watching my sister shoot a turkey.
Wow.
So to me, that makes me know that I'm teaching him the right things.
Raising him right.
Yeah, because it didn't have to mean that much that he had to go shoot another turkey or take a chance of getting a turkey when he had just witnessed his sister do it.
Well, that's awesome, Ethan.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was funny because we were in the blind and I had spent countless hours just watching the turkey, I mean, I actually have them gobbling right off the tree the night before she shot them, But I had a 99% plan no, I don't always work that way, but after watching them for so long.
When you beat the hat,
yeah,
they fly right down into the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you drew it up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, of course, I don't even remember where I was going with that, but
sharing memories.
Yeah, you can't beat them. But as I was about to say, is there's a lot of these you'll see on video or you hear someone say, hey, this happened. But when you're in the woods long enough, you see it and you experience it yourself. So it sounds like the amount that you spend in the timber and in the fields, you have these experiences, and it's just awesome just hearing from you.
Oh yeah,
you can just dive into the detail with it. I can see it happening.
Like I said, I mean, I just enjoy just listening to them, watching them. I think wild turkey is like one of the most beautiful animals that ever was created. Just the iridescence in their feathers and just everything about them. I mean, I'm fascinated with everything about wild turkey. I mean, my house is littered with turkey everything. I
was telling him about
if they made turkey feather toilet paper, I would own it.
No more. That's a quote.
I was telling Ron here about the one you got mounted and how it's hanging on the limb.
That's Ethan's.
Sweet. Your bird, huh?
Yeah, that's his. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because when he shot that turkey, I knew right away I wanted to get it mounted for him because the first one, we could have mounted it. Yeah. But this one here had some really nice spurs on it. So the taxidermist was actually about 6 miles down the road from where we were hunting at. So I said to him, I said, come on. I said, Daddy will get this mounted for you. So we ran down there and, you know, we showed him some mounts and stuff. And I said, well, how do you want it mounted? And he said, I want it done gobbling on a log, Dad. And I'm like, all right. So I basically put half down on a down payment. And the guy called me up less than a year later or whatever. He said, hey, I got your turkey done. I'm like, cool. We go over, pick it up, just fell in love with it. I thought it was an excellent mount. And I get it home because my plan was I was going to put it above his bed. Like, so when you woke up in the morning, the turkey was roosted right above his head. Well, when I got home, I realized, well, that's a little bigger than I anticipated. That's not going to work in his room anywhere. Like, the way everything was, no matter even if we rearranged, he was going to walk into it or we were or something. So it ended up, I had to move some stuff in the living room, and that's where it ended up. Well, of course, Rebecca wasn't the happiest about it, but I wasn't taking no brand new turkey mount and setting it anywhere else.
Yeah.
So. Oh yeah, he fell asleep on the couch one day, and I took a little water and I drizzled it on him and his hair and stuff. And he wakes up, he's like, Dad, what is that? And I was like, I think that turkey just peed on your head.
Did you believe him, Ethan? No, he didn't fall for that. Oh man, well that's really these are the things that the memories that you share.
Right.
You'll remember something like that. Your dad pulling your leg like that. You'll remember that for many years.
Well, he talked about that story on that interview we did in Georgia that the guy asked him about one of his memories, and he was like, I liked watching my dad because he shot one last year with a 410, and we stretched it. I mean, I told him it's either now or you're not getting a shot, and it was probably 52 yards, and he hit him pretty good too. But of course, turkeys, they like to move and take off. Well, as soon as I saw it like making any kind of inkling of getting away, I unzipped the blind, boy, and I beat out across that field. Well, I come back and he's just dying laughing, and I'm like, what's so dang funny? And he's like, you, Dad. He goes, watching you run across that field. I said, well, that turkey wasn't getting away from your dad.
That's something I didn't realize in the bird that I got. Deer, you shoot, hey, wait, give them longer than you need to. You don't want to push them. But turkey, I shot like I'm excited, it's flopping around. The buddies were like, get it.
Yeah.
So, did this run like, am I supposed to be doing this or not? But it's exhilarating. It's quite the rush.
Oh, man, I still love deer hunting, don't get me wrong, but I'd much rather spend it in the woods chasing turkeys than day of the week.
It's not the same.
Nah.
I mean, it's it's unique to what it is, and I think myself, because I really enjoy it. That's why we're sitting here talking turkey, because we do enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
But it's just like anything else. You get into it and you have a little bit of success, and that itch.
It makes you feel good. Yeah, it really does. I mean,
and you can connect. You're connecting with the outdoors. You're connecting with nature.
Yeah.
It's springtime. It's not freezing cold out.
No.
Like deer seasons. It's cold and hot.
And for me, like, I like getting other people involved in it too. I mean, I've not just taken him, but I've taken other kids out and gotten them their first turkeys. And then turned around and made a wing bone call out of that turkey for them as a gift.
Very cool.
So it's and then something like that. It's like they'll have that as long as they keep it, and it's like they'll look back on that 20, 25 years from now, whatever, and be like, I might not be around then, but they'll be like, man, I remember Jason taking me out. And I know for a fact they'll remember everything about that hunt. You know what I mean? Like, just like you do. Like, you kill a big buck, you remember everything about that hunt. Yeah.
You already have plenty of memories that you don't even realize that you got, but there's plenty of stories.
Oh, he tells me stuff, and I'm like, what? I don't remember that. And he's like, yeah, Dad, you remember? And then he'll explain it more detail, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I do remember that.
Well, that's, I mean, we'll sit down and we'll talk, and
stories get mixed up.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be like, this is what had happened. You were there, and the things that we retain.
Yeah.
It's unique to each of us.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like my father. I was only 16 years old and he died of cancer. He was only 35. But the last deer hunt him and I were on, I mean, I have that etched so hard in my head. It was, back then you were still allowed to shoot 3 inches.
Sure, yeah.
Legal. Anything 3 inches was legal. Well, he had cancer prior to that, lost his left eye. So he had to relearn how to shoot a gun, relearn how to drive, all that, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were sitting in my uncle's blind, still aren't allowed to do them, but we always piled the sticks up around and made like a little hunt blind off the ground. And it was always a hot spot. Like I used to get so mad because my uncle, he'd be done hunting by 8 o'clock every year, already kill a buck. And I'm sitting over there like, man, just 1 year, let me set that spot.
Yeah.
So my dad and I, I think it was probably the first Saturday we went in there, sat down. I'm like 14, maybe, I think it was. And I'm watching these deer come up from the bottom, and he had an old open sight 30-06 pump,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching these deer with his binoculars, and I'm like, Dad, that third one, it's got horns. It's got horns. And he's like, no, it don't. And I said, Dad, I'm telling you, and they're coming closer and closer. Next thing you know, I'm like, shoot, Dad, shoot. Well, he shoots it. It goes down, It's got its head down, buried in the leaves. So we get down there, he can't see no horns. And he's like, oh, man, if this thing don't have horns, he goes, you're dragging it out, blah, blah, blah. And we're way back in the mountain, dude. I mean, I'm talking, I ain't making it out there till dark 30. Even then, both of us dragging, we weren't making it out till dark 30. So I'm like, Dad, I'm telling you, I said, you either shot the wrong deer or this one has horns. And I'll never forget, like, he picked the head up then, and you could see them one was just barely 3 inches, and the other one was a hair over 3 inches. And just, I remember him turning around and just the expression on his face and how happy he was. Yeah. He picks me up and he's shaking me around, and I'm like, I told you, Dad, before he passed away, I had made a, plaque for it and everything in shop class. And I put the velvet over the horns and everything, and I had a plaque made. Yeah. Yep. I still have it. Yeah. I had a brass plaque made that said it did have horns, Dad, love Jason or whatever. That. So that was like one of the last things as far as hunting wise I got to do with my father, and like I said, after that I kind of just went on my own because I mean my grandfather still hunted, but I was one I liked to go. Yeah, I liked being more in the mountain. Grandpa was older, now I still hunted with him, but I was more like a billy goat back then. I wanted to go back to our old spot, and my grandfather couldn't make it that far. But then the older I got, I learned, well, it's just more about spending time with him than it is actually hunting or killing something.
As we get to have different age, the different ages and stuff, like 14 years old, you want to harvest that animal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
40 years old, you want to spend the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, we really, appreciate
absolutely
some time. We can do this. We can do this probably for hours.
I'm sure.
Stories.
Yeah.
It's like swapping war stories. But I really want to thank you for taking the time to come out, hang out, show us some of this beautiful calls that you have made, and really educate me.
I just wanted to bring a variety and kind of show you. I mean, I got stuff that I got a guy in Nebraska, is a good friend of mine. He's invited me out there too, and me and Ethan both, but once again, time just doesn't work out for me all the time. But he makes what they call a nail call, and it's basically a block of wood, probably about 2 by 3 inches. It's hollowed out, and then he takes an old cut nail, what a cut nail looks like, and he drives it down into the top of that piece of wood. So you have the hollow bottom, the nail on the top, and then you have a piece of stone or corian, and you use that as a striker. And you'd be surprised, like the sound of turkey you get out of this call. I mean, it just it fascinates me. I got calls that are made out of mason jars. They took a mason jar, drilled holes through the bottom of it, put a soundboard in it. The top they glued slate in one piece and glass in the other, so you can change the surface. You take the lid off, you put your other lid on, and bam, you scratch on that little jelly jar, and there's your turkey call. I mean,
That's cool.
All these calls, why would you use an electronic one, right?
oh yeah, I mean, I would. They're illegal anyhow, basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's just it fascinates me that these call makers, just like this horn. You know what I mean? Like this guy just
The amount of work that had to go into it.
he makes. Who would ever thunk in a million years you would take a horn and turn it into a turkey call?
Well, I don't know who said it. Some old philosopher said the necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we come up with different things all the time, but you know what you're after, and trial and error.
Yeah.
That's how you get good at this sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, I mean, I live, eat, sleep, and die turkey. I mean, that's I think about that at work when I'm supposed to be programming. I'm looking into people's yards, like, is there turkeys out there? Like, I remember a couple weeks ago we went and did a job, and the lady just lost her husband, and we were placing a furnace for her, and she had some old black and white like pencil drawings of turkeys hanging on the wall.
So cool.
And I wanted so bad to ask her, like, hey, would you ever be interested in selling them? That's something I'd be interested in, but I didn't want to because I knew they probably meant something to her through her husband.
Timing.
So I'd asked her about taking pictures of them. She was like, kind of looked at me weird, and she was like,
little does she know.
Yeah, like, go ahead and take pictures. And I told her that. I'm like, I don't mean to like be like that. I said, but I'm made up with turkey. Like that's all I think about is turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you put a high value on it.
Oh yeah.
Where she maybe doesn't have the same perspective or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But these are the things like hunting and the outdoors, and getting the next generation involved, and that sort of like passing on what we know to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's really what matters.
And like,
I put high value on
say we go yard selling or flea marketers, I'm always looking for calls. Always. I mean, there's usually not a time I've gone to the flea market and I haven't found something, like last summer I was down there and there was a company out of Newville. It was called Funks.
Okay.
They make it's just like a little wooden block with a little piece of slate, and the striker itself kind of set in a plastic thing, and you just kind of pull it back, and it makes turkey sound. But I just rooting through these boxes, I found one in the original box with the original paper. It was like brand new, and I got it pretty dirt cheap, which I already have a couple of them. I just didn't have all the box, and because like as collectors, they look for things like that.
Oh yeah,
packaging, box. I mean, I know a guy that has some calls that, I mean, they're really valuable. Like I was mentioning earlier about Charles Jordan. He was the innovator of them, the Jordan style call that I was talking about. This here with the river cane and stuff. So imagine getting to hold the first one of them that was ever made.
Part of history.
I got to play it. Like when we were in Georgia, the guy, I mean, he's literally has his house built around his call collection. I mean, it's all like a humidor, humidity controlled, securities, lights. I mean, you would think, like,
he really got the itch.
Yeah, like, and he there's a lot of guys like that. I mean, people don't realize there's people out there, man. They got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of turkey calls.
Yep.
Just setting on gold mines in a way. You know what I mean? Like things you'll never be able to get again because either the call maker died or they're not producing them anymore. And some of these old things. I mean, even like some of these production calls, I don't know if you had watched, they just, Mossy Oak put out a new thing about these two older gentlemen. Basically, they're like probably the two oldest living turkey hunters that have been around since when turkeys really weren't around.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you have to watch it. I mean, it's really a touching, history lesson
Well, that's
about.
like it's being a student. Being a student of the bird, being a student of the sport. Knowing the history of it, like that stuff, sort of stuff interests us.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
then the value, like you were talking about, the value of not just the calls, but I mean hunting gear and
Mhm.
guns.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
Like, everything has a value on it.
Yep.
And I think that, like that widow you were talking about, like she might not have placed the same value on something that a guy like you or me
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Some
Right.
people are just they have no idea
Yep.
what us sportsmen invest.
Oh, what? Yeah,
And
yeah,
we
yeah.
look at it like we invest in this stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's people that say I'm crazy for the money I have spent on turkey calls. But hey, I'm not doing drinking. I don't do drugs.
can
You
do
know what I
it
mean?
somewhere.
Like
Yeah, we
I could
talked
be
about it.
spending it on a lot worse things. Like
Correct.
I mean, I still pay my bills. I'm not living out of a garbage can. So I mean, it's just I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated, and it's like I've met call makers like Marlon Watkins.
Mhm.
I've gone to his house. Ethan and I've gone to his house out in Ohio. He invited us out. We jumped in the truck. Me and Ethan and Mike took a 4-hour road trip out there. Went through his he basically he guides people sometimes in the fall and things. So he has like a shop, and then above it he has like a little cabin, you would consider it,
Yeah.
on top of his garage. I mean, you walk up there, there's vintage calls, vintage pictures, awards of things he's won, and then you get downstairs and you just sit and you interact with the call maker. It's like I enjoy that. Like this guy here, this Ralph Permar, he's from Pennsylvania too. I have plans, me and Ethan this summer, we're gonna go down and spend a day with him. Just
Awesome.
ride down. He's down past Kutztown,
Okay.
probably about an hour and a half or 45 minutes from us. But I talked to him down in Georgia and I said, hey, would you mind if I come down and just hung out and visited, picked the brain? I enjoy that, like anything history wise. I'm always reading about it. I'm actually through all this, I've met some of the probably best collectors in the country, as far as literature. Like,
Build friendships too.
yeah, I mean, I know guys that have some books and paperworks that you'll never see them ever again. Like it's like it just fascinates me, even though they have that stuff, to know that that part of history is still being
It exists.
yeah, like being held on to, and people still have that passion for what our ancestors did to help keep the population going and making it grow.
Yeah, so I would say like what's really important to us is passing that information along, right?
Yeah.
So like whatever it is that I got in my skill set, I want to, I'll share it with Brady or share it with Ethan or share it with the next guy,
Yep.
And you're doing that for us here today.
Yeah. Well,
you're bringing your the wealth of knowledge that you've accrued over your years,
yeah.
and you're not just for us, but for our listeners and our audience. And so, I really, really appreciate you making the time to come out. I'm glad you guys connected.
Yeah, me too. It's funny because whenever Ethan was telling me about it, I knew in my heart, like I knew I could just feel a passion.
Oh yeah,
for it from him. So that's why I wanted to do something special with him. And Mike's a real good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He's very well-known call maker. I mean, he probably has more awards in Grand Nationals than any other call maker there as far as the hunting class calls.
Right.
Because as you can see, he makes such a variety, and he's one of those guys that until he finds the turkey that he wants out of that call, he's not going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
I mean, he is
passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I couldn't be more thankful, to bump into you and get to know you. And, when you were saying about when they were donating calls to you to, give towards Ethan, how you felt like, I'm why are you doing this to me? You know, I want to get back. Like that picture, my face is red. Like,
Yeah, I know.
I was like caught off guard a little bit. It was awesome.
No, that made my day, and
Yeah,
it made
day.
Ethan happy, even Mike. You know, I mean, I know I'm really close with Mike, and you know, we talk about you as far as because I told him the other day. I said, "Yeah, Brady asked about maybe doing a podcast," and he's like, "Oh, that'd be really cool," you know. But it's just getting into the collecting and the turkey hunting, you know, beaver part of it.
Sure,
Like it's just opened so many doors. I've met so many great people. I mean,
that's
some
the
of
important stuff.
some of the best
really matters.
artists, you know, like Melissa Ball, she does feather paintings. She lives up towards Waynesboro. Okay. Well, a couple years, well, it's been a good many years ago, but I found out about her, seen some of her artwork. I'm like, man, I got to own some of this, you know?
Yeah.
So I called her up, ordered some stuff, and she's like, well, instead of shipping it and saving you, or the causing the shipping, she's like, why don't you just come up and pick them up? And I'm like, oh, heck yeah, absolutely.
Check out the shop.
So we jump in the vehicle and off to her house we go, you know, and it's just like you meet these people and it's like it's like you've known them your whole life, you know, like.
I do. I know exactly what you mean because we're brought up the same way.
Yep.
With an appreciation.
Yep.
For, you know, the thing we have a passion for.
Yep. Like last past year, I was telling Brady, I think I took a bunch of deer jerk or bologna down there. And I mean, we had elk bologna. We had like 5 or 6 different kinds of deer bologna mixed with cheese.
Yeah.
Just, you know, me and Mike and my buddy Tony, who's another award-winning call maker, from down around Kutztown area. He makes wing bones and Jordans, and he actually just this past year won the Charles Jordan Award with the best wing bone Jordan call in Nashville. You know, so you're competing against some of the best in the whole country, and you know, to win stuff like that. I mean, them guys, they don't mess around. They're putting out the best turkey in their ear, you know, for them judges to determine who got the best sounding turkey in their ears, you know. So they put their heart and soul into it, you know.
Love it.
Great products turn out that way when you put all the effort in and you know, you reproduce the values that you have towards it.
Oh yeah. And I'm fortunate, like I said, with Mike because I mean, I know he's, you know, you would call him today and be like, hey Mike, you know, I met Jason Rohrer. He was telling me about your box calls. I'd love to get a box call from you. 9 times out of 10, with the way he's so busy, he's probably going to tell you, okay, I'll put you on the list. It might be 3 to 4 years. I mean, I've seen his list. It's you know, they're backed up, like, and you can only build so many turkey calls, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I'm fortunate because I get to hang out with him. I go places that he goes to sell calls, so I get kind of like first dibs at him. You know what I mean? Now there's stuff that I don't get, but you know, 9 times out of 10, if I go to his house and I'm like, "Hey man, I like that," you know. All right, well, money talks, you know.
It's good. I know it.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
Because like when I first started buying a lot of his stuff, you know, I remember there was times I'd post pictures on Facebook and people would be like, hey man, I was on his list for 2 years, you know. And I always tell them, I'm like, look, I go to where he goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we used to, well, we still do. They canceled it last year, but there's a place up in New York called Turkey Trot Acres. And they have a small thing in the summer. It's just a secluded little cabin in the wood. The guy, he does a lot of fall guiding with dogs. That's how they got started years ago. Really nice couple, Pete and Sherry Claire. But they do like brick fired pizzas for you all day long.
Cool.
They'll do like pit roast beef. And all it is just a bunch of guys like us. We get together. There's a couple, you know, 7 to 10 call makers that show up and sell calls. And we just stand around and talk turkey and play calls and socialize. You know what I mean? But
it's running the same circles.
Yeah, it's like,
right?
you know, like going to Georgia.
Circles.
It's like that trip there. Now I've never been to Nashville. I'd like to go there sometime. Just because there's people that I've communicated with through Facebook and have become real close with that I've never gotten to hug or shake their hand or things like that, just because it hasn't ever worked out. But I have met a lot of real nice people down in Georgia. I mean, like Lamar Williams, who's from Florida. He's another one that's like Mike. Like his calls are valuable. It's hard to get on his list. Not hard to get on his list, but it's going to take you a little while to get on his list. Guys like Marlon Watkins. I mean, he's built calls for Zinc. And just he has his own design to his own box call, and to be able to go to his house and we could jump in his John Deere buggy and he takes us all around his property and he shows us his duck ponds and just enjoy, just enjoyed it. I mean, there's to me, there's nothing. And then to spend that time with Ethan, because I mean, I know some of the things him and I have done together, he's not ever going to forget.
Right. More of the memories that we highlighted.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was great. Glad we could capture this moment, and
I enjoyed it.
And we could be here, another 3 days.
We'll have to stay, stay connected. It's just like anything else, you network, you meet people that you rub elbows with and stuff. And this has been really good. We'll probably process all the information here, and it'll probably be turkey season until we post this. But we'll let you know. We'll send you the link so you can listen to it.
That'd be cool.
I just want to thank you. Really,
not a problem. I'm thankful you guys had me here. I was excited all day about it.
So are we.
I got home. I'm like, man, I want to pack some calls, because at first I didn't know, and I thought, no, I'd take them along.
I'm glad you did.
Just because a lot of people don't get to see things like that. There's so many variations of calls, and just
we'll get some pictures of these and post them and get you like credit for who made these things. But this has been a real education for me. So
I appreciate it. I mean, I'm no expert, but I do. I enjoy talking about it. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time around a lot of good people that has helped me, because back in the day, a lot of guys were hush hush. I mean, they didn't talk a lot about what calls they were using, or where turkeys were at and things like that. And you still have guys like that.
Sure.
I'm kind of that way. I mean,
you're the expert in the room tonight.
I don't, I don't go around saying, "Oh yeah, man, well I just seen 5 longbeards down here off line 944." I might tell the kids that, but I don't tell too many people that.
Yeah, we tell a lot of people, Ethan.
Smart man.
All right. Well, listen. Thanks again for tuning in to Tracks and Tackle. You can find us on social media pages. You can find us on YouTube, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. We do appreciate Jason Rohrer for stopping in tonight, and his son Ethan for hanging out and talking turkey with us. We'll get this process posted, and until next time, we just encourage everybody listening to stay wild.